Hello again, my people. So I just recorded the other video on non-traditional weddings. I just thought I'd go ahead and try to just let it flow unscripted and talking about my dad, who I actually recorded with his show. Lovely Joy Laguna is her name. Um, I recorded a long time ago, but I never ended up using it. I don't know why I prolonged it. So nobody's actually ever heard me talk about this, and there are only so many people that know this story. And I don't want to say, sure, there are people that would be defended knowing this or hearing this, but I feel no need to defend my dad because I know my dad. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about him. This is going to be kind of entertaining. I think this is going to be entertaining to you because he could face all sorts of judgment. So this show is going to be about basically how to not give a fuck what other people think about you, and he never has. So he could be looked at on so many different levels, just bad. And I give him a lot of props to just being himself. And so I guess we could start at the beginning, but I'm going to condense the story. Okay, so this is wife number 4. And basically, part of his story, and I need to give you a little bit in here too of I believe this got to be to number 4, is because the bottom line is that he, like me, has been hypnotized by physical beauty. So he had to learn in his own way, right? Because that's what he's always picked in the past. How did that help him? What did that do for him? And so while the second one that I grew up with, my stepmom, a beautiful person, it could have lasted longer. There were some outside things that occurred in the family where it was not able to be carried on. But they've all been super beautiful. Okay, and then I also have a sister who's I think she's like 24 now, so she's with the third mom. So it was my mom, so it's Thai, Filipino, Thai, Filipino. So as you know, as you can see, there is a pattern here of Asian women, and he met my mom in Thailand when he was stationed in the army, Vietnam, for 18 months. I think I say a little bit of in my story with Nora's upbringing, like on that playlist, if you want to go in there, but I don't think I've dived deep. And so I might as well, I think I tried to draw a diagram to explain my basically from like with my mom and all of her upbringings and different things like that, and or what we know of her upbringing and all that stuff that I'm not going to get into. Okay, so that's where and why we are at number 4, who I think is the winner, and it is true love, and she is an old soul, and there are lots of indications that I can tell you that to be truth. Okay, for those of you who don't believe or whatever, old soul or soulmate or whatever. And Miss Lovely Joy has actually always dated older men. I don't know that she's dated them more than 30 years older than her. And no, she is not a gold digger. But I wasn't sure that this is something that was going to work out for them because I think they weren't totally on the same page. And again, I had already asked my dad. I wasn't sure why he was picking somebody not only necessarily so young, but I don't know that they had that much in common initially. So basically, he drives her to church every Sunday. She loves reading books about the Amish, and part of her story and things like that, which is also the reason for a meant to be, is she was really worried about us, like his kids, which my brother and him don't talk anymore, but she was worried how we were going to react to her. And she left her entire family, so she's been here alone and just met a couple of people in the community to help her feel. I think she feels somewhat supported, but she's basically on her own. Basically, was one of those things where she was making literally $40 a month, like in American money, and giving half to her family. So anyway, so I actually don't know much more to tell you about that other than they're doing really well. And like I said, they live a really simple, easy life. They just go shopping, go to Goodwill, go to the lake, do a lot of nothing. I he just taught her how to drive and different things like that, and easily assimilated. And whenever he passes, she's going to be all set up there just to continue on whatever she wants to do. And that's about there. I just think that my dad has a lot of balls. Especially, I just mentioned in the last video that when I met her at the airport, and they're holding hands, right? And she's got the headband on with the cat ears and looking like she almost, sometimes she looks like she can look 16. But, and that's a whole nother thing, right? You could see you thinking some pedophilia action going on. But she's, I guess you could say she looks like she's in her 20s, but she looks like she could be under 20. So I'm sure enough people know them in the community now. They're all used to it and whatever. But so any of you that might be judging or thinking or whatever, like, my dad still pretty much still looked okay within the past like 10 years, still looks like a, handsome looking older guy. He's a book reader. I think I've talked about this a little bit, maybe in another video. So he grew up in West Virginia, read a lot of books, mystery magazines, things he's been collecting over the years that have actually kept him afloat money wise after he was laid off basically like 20 or 30 years ago. He's been collecting comics since he was 12. So he's just always been a quiet, a recluse, world traveler, though, because of being in the army and different things like that. Very interesting person, very forward thinking. My main um, I don't main authority main authority figure, the one that I did not want to disappoint. Okay, and then there's my stepdad, who's also crazy and so funny and one of my greatest influences. And that was my mom's remarried husband, and he is in Thailand, and he's been there and going back and forth. And he remarried after my mom passed. So the not giving a fuck, when you get to that point, because sometimes it's maybe I did a show on giving less fucks. Because sometimes it's harder to actually completely give in, right? And not give a fuck what other people think. It takes so much time. Even I feel like even when you're working on it, it just actually, like, it's the maturity, and you actually, all of these things you have to grow into. But I do know different things that you can do in the process to not give a fuck. And one of them is just remembering that about thinking for yourself. That's number one, because people are going to say something about you even when you're doing good and you think you're doing good at something. So you spend all of this, I feel like it's wasted energy worrying about what other people are thinking, and you kind of can't control it. You can't control it, right? And like I just said, me even coming to the realization almost till like about 44, that whole thing, and that's why I got to read that Mother Teresa saying to do good anyway. When I realized, wow, I'm doing all of these things, and people may still say something, think bad about me. So that's better knowing that. So that's all about all, folks. Just wanted to share that with you because I kind of have never really totally talked about it, and I think it's fascinating. And I have not dove deep into talking about how I am child number 5 of my mom. And I will talk about later in the abandonment issues that apparently I've been worried my whole life that I was abandoned and not wanted or whatever. And apparently my stepdad said I was the only one that was wanted. So how about that shit? So I didn't find that out till I was an adult. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Basically, not give a fuck, live your life, do what you want. If you just take that into account, look at how much energy that you are putting into worrying what other people think, and just trust your gut and your heart. That's like one of the best pieces of advice. And the whole, whose life are you living? Are you living it for somebody else, or are you living it for you? Right? I want you to ask these questions. When you go in those moments and you almost feel like a pressure to either perform or be or do things, these things that are not you. Okay, so take off the mask, and every day think about this, is that is an opportunity to do something different, to be someone different, and step out of the comfort zone. Look at it as step in to the uncomfortable, because you are going to see just the magnificent things that can happen, as well as you learn these different ways of healing and what happens after healing. Okay, that's why I'm so excited and passionate to share with you these different parts of my journey and story. Okay, and lastly, there was no question in terms of not accepting joy at all, because I want my dad to be happy, and I know where his heart is, and I trust, and I just know, like, she's like perfectly what he needed. And that's, he had to learn. He had to learn in his own way, just like everybody else. And if you come from that state of being impulsive or always just picking physically what's beautiful on the outside, and you are not looking at those inner character things, or at least giving it time to get to know somebody for a certain amount of time, uh, these things can happen, because either their true character comes out eventually, or whatever it is. Maybe you were just blinded, and you saw red flags, but you ignored them. Again, right? You're not trusting yourself. So I will see you next video. And anyway, hopefully you thought that was interesting. You probably weren't expecting that, because I've never talked about it at all. Okay, yeah, so my dad's gonna be 82 and she's gonna be 27. Yeah, that's some shit, right? Bye.